Over the course of my life, I've been very fortunate enough to make so many friends and develop such great relationships with the friendships that I've have developed and maintained. So that's something that I'm very grateful for in my own life. And even being here in Japan and living here for the past about 8 months or so, in the beginning, I had to make a new community. I had to make new friends in order for me to have a healthy social lifestyle. So, I wanted to share just some of the things that I do to make friends. And I just know, first and foremost, that it's something that I truly desire in life, and it brings a lot of joy to me just having a lot of great relationships and meeting new people. And I think when you develop good relationships and you develop friendships that can potentially last a long time, or even if they last for only temporarily for a short term, it's still very meaningful because you probably learn a lot from that relationship or those relationships in the past, and you learn a lot about yourself and about other people, their culture, their etiquette, their beliefs. Like all those things really matter to me, and it's good to just have that in your life. And so I just want to share what I do to make friends. And so I would say one book that is pretty influential to me, that I probably one of my top recommended books that I read, is actually How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it's a very popular book. I think a lot of people recommend it to through companies, through their work, or for their friends and family, for people that they care about, because it really does touch on like valuing people and caring about them, and developing relationships, and through those relationships being able to have an influence on them, and vice versa. And although I don't remember all the lessons from the book, there was just a couple takeaways that I still practice even to this day. And maybe it's something I should do, is reread the book, because it's one of those books where you go back to and you refer back and you touch up on some of the techniques or some of the good practical applications from the book to help you enhance your relationship with people. And so one of the takeaways that I had is pretty simple, is just remembering people's names. Like when you meet people and you call them by their name, like it has a impression on them, like they feel valued. Oh, it's like them thinking like, oh, this guy really knows me, he actually knows my name. And I think that's a good start, is just remembering their name and calling them by their name. Even when people call me by my name, like rather than saying hey you or hey, it does kind of make a difference of how what kind of impression I have on them, and how much like I perceive their value, them value how much they value me. And so I always try my best to remember names, and I'm actually pretty bad in nature at remembering names, but I really do try my best. And one example would just be like me teaching at the schools that I'm at currently, and I have to remember the students' names, and it's hundreds of students of names that I have to remember. But in the beginning, it was very hard to remember all of them. But over time, I made effort to make sure I remember everybody's name, and I kept asking and asking, even if I probably annoy them for their names. But eventually, I got majority of the names down. Maybe close to 80%. It's hard to get 100 because the thing is, like, you don't interact with everybody the same amount of time. There's going to be some students or teachers that you interact with more often, where those names you should probably remember and get it down. But obviously, the ones that you don't interact with as much, it'll be harder to remember those names. But I still try my best, and at the very least, I remember their faces, and I know what their role is, what their job is, and on top of that, remembering names is also remembering like key details about them, like details that also that they really care about, that they care about that they care about the fact that you remember that detail. So, and what I mean by that is, and what I would go on to about is like talking about things that they really enjoy. So if you talk about things that of their interests and hobbies, whether it's like sports or a specific sport, if it's talking about like movies or animes or a specific show. So if you're talking about sports, for example, and their favorite thing is sports, and their specific sport is like basketball, and their favorite team is this, and they like their player this player because of this. So if you remember that key detail, and in another conversation it comes up, you'll say, "Hey, I remember that your favorite team is this, and you know, this is the player. You like this player because of this reason." And then they'll be like, "Oh, wow, this person actually remembers that detail about my favorite player and my favorite team." So I think something like that, like remembering key details, remembering their name, and when you always go on about conversations. So one thing, when you make friends is you got to talk to people, you got to converse with them. And as I mentioned before, it'd be great to just ask questions. Ask questions specifically about things that they are interested in. And that is also my takeaway from the book too, because I believe it touches on that. So that became a very great practice for me, because for me it was simple to keep the conversation going. I just keep asking about the things that they're interested in, and it usually I'm interested in the things that they're interested in, because I'm curious. I want to ask questions why they're interested in that. Oh, what about this and that? Like, what about like that show? Like, why do you like that show? What makes it so great? What do you like about this character, and what are some of the themes? Like, you would just go on, and then you'd start getting more and more interested and be like, "Oh, wow, this is so fascinating." And I think me asking those questions and having those conversation starters and to keep those conversations going, it also has allowed me to have like a vast knowledge across the board on a lot of things. And it gets me more curious about different types of subjects and topics, and keep wanting to learn more about them, while at the same time getting to know the person. So, those are some things that I took away from the book. And some things of my personal experience, like another tip would just be like, when you want to go out there and make friends, like you really have to put a lot of effort. I realize, like, when it comes to like being part of a community and developing friendships, like you really have to expend a lot of energy. And even for me, a guy that's very introverted, that doesn't naturally is not, an outgoing, loud person, I still realize like I gotta put forth effort, if not more effort than the guy that comes off so naturally as an extrovert, so good with speaking to people and being comfortable around people, and even gaining energy by being around people. And for me, at first, I didn't really have that stamina. So, as an introvert, you get tired out with these social gatherings. But I gotten used to it, and I built up stamina, and it doesn't wear me out as much because I've become more comfortable in the thing that I was initially uncomfortable in, because I just kept putting myself in that situation, being more familiar with it, and the more familiarity that I developed, the more comfortable I became, and I guess the social stamina has enhanced and gotten better. But the thing is, you do have to really go out of your way and expend a lot of energy. You might have to go to like events or communities and meet with people that you don't really know. And you probably have to go to hangouts and gatherings, or be willing to hang out one on one or in a small group setting to get to know more people, even if days and times where you don't really feel like it. Those are the trade-offs that you gotta have. Is this are you willing to take the time and energy to meet with people? Because that's how you gotta make friends, right? That's how you build relationships. Is you gotta spend time with them, and you have to be willing to put forth the energy in order to get to know people. And so that's one thing. And I would say, it starts in really those areas, like your workplace, like those areas that you're there all the time. Your workplace, it could be like your church community, it could be like your sports group or your yoga group, a hiking community, or you got a gaming community, or a place where you could learn a language. There's so many like extracurricular activities out there, even as an adult, that you could get plugged into and try out. And those are opportunities for you to meet more people. And you just keep doing that. You put yourself out there and you just keep talking to people and getting to know them. And there be those people that you click with more easily, and some that are a bit harder, and really need more work, more effort into those type of relationships. So it really depends, and it's a give and take. It really depends on you, on your preferences and who you want to hang out with, for you, because everybody has their own reasons, right? And so, but the thing is, obviously you gotta expend a lot of energy, and you gotta, you know, put yourself out of your comfort zone and be willing to meet people that you also haven't met before. And so for me, it's just how I went about it, especially in Japan. Is like there's people in my workplace that I would talk to more often, and then you just have small conversations, small talk, and then another day would come and you extend that conversation and talk about more things, or and it just one thing leads to another, and then it's you have a group gathering where you meet outside of the workplace, so everybody meets then, and then that's when people really let their guard down and feel more comfortable and willing to have more friendlier conversations, more conversations that aren't also work related. And so that's just an example of how I utilize you know just hanging out and just talking with people. And even in those settings that I'm always in, like the workplace or maybe the church or maybe those basketball groups, like there'll be like small things that I would do to extend like additional help, or do like a random act of kindness, because then you're really showing like, oh, you really care about them, that you're there to help, you're there to kind of be of service in a lot of ways. And when you do good deeds like that, it goes a long way, and a lot of people notice that. And uh, people see you differently. They're like, oh, this guy really does care about what I do, and he actually helped me out with this little thing that I actually didn't ask for, but he went out of his way to still help me. And those interactions again could start off more conversations and could develop into a relationship, into a friendship, where you interact more and get to know each other. And so things like that, those little things that you do, little acts of kindness, really go a long way too. And usually, when you do hangouts, when you have mutual friends, people bring their friends, and then that's a way to meet new people. And you do those conversation starters, you remember the names, remembering key details, and you get to do that, and then get opportunities to hang out more outside of that party or outside of the workplace, and then you do that, and you probably have a good time, and you bond over things that you're interested in, or food, or travel, or concerts, or karaoke, any type of activity that you guys enjoy doing. But you really have to put yourself out there and be willing to do those activities. And usually it's more helpful if you do activities that you really do enjoy. So, there's things like the futsal group that I'm in that I do, or joining, playing pickup basketball and meeting people there and talking with them. So those are all opportunities for me to just interact with people and see like if I could develop friendships with a lot of these people that I interact with. And so I felt I feel like all those practices that I've implemented, those applications have really been helpful, at least for me, in making new friends and interacting with people. And for me, I genuinely come to enjoy that more. Like, it's gotten to a point where I feel like I know that something in my life that I need is just genuine friendships and meeting new people and having authentic relationships. Uh like because you need that. You need that for people to help you when you're in need of, or there's certain kind of services that you need from people, and they probably need your help too. So that gets all reciprocated as well in those relationships too. And it's important to note that you don't really do it for your own gain, but you do it because you just want to help your friend. You want to help the friend that you enjoy hanging out with, right? And so I take a lot of value in that, and I find that so beneficial, and I enjoy having those type of relationships. And I've come to embrace that more and realize how important that is for my life and for my social health and my social lifestyle. And so it does take a lot of energy, and sometimes I do get tired and drained. But then you could have those days where you could have time for yourself and just relax, let yourself recover, and then you could hang out on the next day or some days after that. But yeah, you do have to be willing to take the first step and just uh, do things that are kind of out there, that you know that just really challenge yourself in a social atmosphere. And as I was saying, it's a joy for me, and that's why when I have these interactions, I feel more energized actually. So maybe that is a more extroverted trait, right? And maybe I have turned more extroverted in a lot of ways from what I was before, because I was not as uh, good around people or enjoyed it as much when I was much younger. But I learned to embrace that, and because I it is such a joy for me and I desire that in my life, I'm willing to go out of my way and meet new people and always interact with them, because it's very meaningful to me. And so I embrace it, and these are just some of the practical applications that I wanted to share with you. I'm sure there's a lot of other better techniques and other applications that I have not mentioned, but those are the things that I could think of from the top of my head that I just want to share with you. So you could go out there and maybe implement these things and make new friends. So I think it's worth it. I think it's great to make new friends and develop great relationships, whether it's in the short term or the long term, because you never know like how these relationships are gonna make a great impact in your life.